Hello, I'm Cameron McEwan here at Star Fury's convention down in Birmingham. I'm joined today by Mark Sheppard. Hello, Mark.
Hey, how you doing? What's your middle name?
It's K for Kennedy.
K for Kennedy?
Yeah.
That's a lot of work. K for Kennedy or just Kennedy?
Just Kennedy.
Cameron Kennedy.
McEwan. I'm Scottish.
Scottish?
Yes, you've been to Scotland recently?
I've been, well, not that
Ever?
recently. Oh, well, I was talking to Karen quite recently. That was kind of fun.
She's quite Scottish.
She's very Scottish.
Yeah.
She believes that anybody that does a fake Scottish accent shouts a lot. Scottish! Which makes it very interesting.
That was good. I like that. That was almost like Billy Connolly.
I know Billy. Billy's a funny man.
He is.
Told me many good stories.
Well, Billy Connolly, here's a fact, played in a folk band with my dad. For one.
Banjo, I hope. Or guitar.
No, he would have been playing the banjo, yeah.
Yeah. Tell me a story about being in Strange Ways. And he was starting to play for the inmates, and he said, my banjo was horribly out of tune. I say, sorry lads, will you give us a minute? And the voice comes up from the back. It's all right, Billy, we got plenty of time.
I didn't see that documentary, Billy in Prison.
Billy in Prison is a fun thing.
Do you watch a lot of British television? Obviously, you live in America for the most part. Do you watch a lot of British dramas or TVs?
Yeah,
TV
as much as I can. I mean, obviously Sherlock and Luther and all the fun stuff. I do voices for BBC America, so there's a sort of onus on me to watch some BBC America product. There's a lot of the shows that have been popular are coming to America a lot faster than they were before. So we've got everything from Whitechapel to now we got Copper. We got BBC America has Copper, which is going to be really interesting. Tom Fontana and Barry Levinson did that. And what else do we got? We got some. There's the White. What's it? What was the series? The one that starts in the 60s and 70s and just did a whole bunch of stuff for that. It was just no. It was BBC Two. Yeah, there was it was a set docudrama.
There was set that had the past, which was I think the 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
And then they had the characters.
The 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah,
but it's really interesting. White something, I think it was called. Yeah. Can't remember what it's called. But just doing ads for that stuff and just seeing what's on. And yeah, there's been a lot of really good, interesting dramas on. I mean, and Steven and Mark Gatiss have cornered the market with Sherlock, I think what an amazing show.
Tempted to say, Steven, can I have a part in Sherlock, please?
I think he's heard that enough times from me to never want to hear it again. The rumour is he was at, Tony was saying he was at a Sherlock Holmes event, and they were like, he was talking about Sebastian Moore, and he's like, are you going to get Mark Sheppard to play that? He said, yeah, he's a good actor, so we'll see. So I think I've been bugging him long enough. I'm going to have to leave him alone.
I mean, it must be nice to work with the same people on a project. You've worked on various different shows, not just Doctor Who, of course. You had.
Well, what a joy doing Doctor Who was. I mean, they have a common thread. The stuff that seems to resonate with the fans is the stuff I've most enjoyed doing, which is an interesting thing. And Doctor Who was such a magical experience for me because I'd never worked on British television, and so my first inroad into British television is not to be in London doing something dramatic or whatever, but to be in Cardiff doing the most popular show on television with the coolest group of people you can imagine, who looked after me from beginning to end, and it's a very different system. The British system of television is very, very different than the American system, and I've spent a lot of time in American television. But it runs differently. I was babysat through the whole process. It was wonderful. I was looked after by some great people, from all the drivers and all the PAs and all the assistants that made sure I didn't make too much of a fool of myself, making sure I found my way around where I was. But Cardiff, what a great place to do a TV show,
How did that come about? You're in America, you're based in America, you're making TV shows there. How did you get your agent to put in a call for Doctor Who, or did Doctor Who come banging on your door?
Yeah. It's like, would you like to do Doctor Who? I'm like, excuse me? Of course. And at the time there was an issue because I was actually doing Supernatural and we couldn't make the dates work, and so I was offered Doctor Who and then couldn't do it, which was horrible. And between Marcus Wilson and his first AD, Martin, was amazing. They were like, I'd lost the job because I wasn't available, and they couldn't move the Supernatural dates because it was a complicated piece. But I get a phone call the next day, and it was like, "Where are you working now?" I mean, what do you mean now? He's like, well, could you fly tomorrow? I'm like, absolutely. And then finally had to go work out permission from various people, but they made it work for me. I'll always be eternally grateful that they did that. I mean, it was an amazing experience. Sandwiched nicely between Sir Michael Gambon and Michael Sheen, I guess, is like, you know, not a bad company to be in.
Yeah, and you've only had one story, but you've made a huge impact in Doctor Who history, the Houvre, if I may use such a awful phrase.
I'm also I'm the Super Who connection, being the supernatural thing. Now they want me to be the Super Who lock connection, which is the trick. But no, I mean, what a great character, what an amazing character. Some of the writers have said, I won't say who, but some of the writers have said it's the most Steven of characters, of all the characters that have been recently put in. And I was like, that's a really interesting thing. I don't know the man that well, but I suppose through the catharsis of Coupling and the other shows that I've watched of his and admired his work so much, it's not crazy to imagine that it's what we would be. If it represents Steven, it represents Steven, but it's what we are. It represents us. Canton represents us meeting the Doctor. It's we're smart and savvy and we know what we're doing, and who the hell is this guy in this blue box and what is he doing? And it doesn't make a lot of sense, but he's the most interesting man in the room. He's the smartest man in the room, and I think I might follow him because it's going to be something to do. So, but it's some amazing moments. I think Canton very much changes the Doctor in some ways, which is really, it's a very intimate relationship that the two of them have. And then the inference by the final episode of season 6 is that there's almost like a brigadier type relationship with him, that he invites him to his funeral not because he's the only guy who can find a can of gasoline, but because he's had a relationship with him from 69 to 2011. So, and
of course this has sparked the sort of debate and interest that your character Canton will at some point return. Do you think that that's a possibility? Do you hope it's a possibility?
Of course I hope it's a possibility. It was an amazing thing to do. It's obviously it would be very difficult. The storyline would have to be something to do between 1969 and 2011 or a particular purpose. I don't know. I don't know what Steven's going to do. Either way, I'll still keep watching. It's not going to change my love for Doctor Who or my love for Sherlock, whether I'm in it or not. I was a big fan of Battlestar before I was ever on Battlestar. So, these things have a way of working out well. I've enjoyed the ride so far. But in a minute, I'd be on it in a minute. It's a lovely thing. Matt is just such an extraordinary person to work with. And Steven's writing is something else. It's something so different.
And it's interesting to see the news in the States that it was #1 in iTunes last year, that the top show beating everything, Glee, all the other American shows to beat this British show #1 in iTunes. It must have felt great to be part of something that not only you're proud of, but also successful.
Well, give the kudos to it's strange that I say kudos and I'm now going to mention the BBC, but give the props, I guess, to BBC America as well, which is Matt Stein, who was there, who's worked out to market this in the way him and his lot and everybody else that's at BBC America. What an amazing group of people to get Who to be on at the same time as it was in England this time, to shoot in America, which hadn't been done before. To set a precedent for not only shooting in America, but shooting something huge in America. To have the presence of mind to use Toby that way. Obviously what an honor to be included. I guess I think it's I have somewhat of a sci-fi presence, but not too big that it becomes a hindrance to the telling of the story of Astronaut and Day of the Moon. I mean, so they were smart. BBC America is, I think, the fastest growing cable channel in the States. The demographics are extraordinary. And I remember when they started and they didn't have enough commercials and they just show sort of Sting in the back of a Jaguar and, really bad old BBC reruns of BBC commercials, the space fillers. Yeah. And you're like, they didn't have enough commercials to fill out their day. And it was the Alan Titchmarsh channel for a long time, and it was they got through that, and then they've sort of become the Gordon Ramsay channel during the day, but they they're recreating themselves and then being able to bring the shows in and then starting to create original programming, which is what they're really moving towards. What an amazing group of people in this climate, in this area. For BBC to be a commercial enterprise in the United States, I think is a brilliant thing, and they're great people to work with. You know, exciting.
Yeah. So plans for the future from now? Do you have any more convention appearances, perhaps?
Well, you know, the fan thing is a sacred thing for me. It's a, you know, in live performance, I come from music and a little theatre, and the connection with the audience is a sacred thing, and it's missing most of the time from television. Yeah. We perform and we do what we do. You know, Battlestar, I remember we shot the finale of Battlestar, and it was 6 months, I think, before it was on. So we knew what we were doing, but we didn't have the connection with the audience at that point. And the opportunity to come to any fan convention, for me, it's not just for publicity. It's to you know, it's for the guest talks, and it's for the questions, and it's for the meeting, because they complete that cycle of who we're doing it for and who we're doing it with. And people like Moffat and Gatiss and all those amazing people, Ron Moore and everybody, Narain Shankar and Harvey Grisha Markswatch, and every great writer that I've worked with, and the guys at Supernatural, and, you know, Ben Edlund. I can't name every writer I've worked with, you know, but you know there's a lot of amazing writers out there. They take that risk without that audience present. They take that risk in advance of the response. They do that writing and that execution and that realization in advance of the audience going, yes, it was great. And that's a hell of a risk and a hell of a covenant that we're expecting them to complete. You know, you can write it, and that's one thing, but to write it, execute it, put it on the air, and roll that dice and go, so do you like it? And people to go, yay, as though it was instantaneously done in front of them at the time. So we're celebrating that action as well by coming to these conventions. And
it's lovely, the reaction you get. I've been to a few, had the pleasure of being invited to screenings and seen a new Doctor Who episode with an audience is incredible.
Yeah.
We
used to do that with Battlestar.
Right.
We used to do it at my house, which was amazing because everybody would come. So if I was in an episode, I'd call everybody up and everybody would come over. We'd feed them and like take all the furniture out of the way, and everybody would be there and watch it. It was an amazing experience. And then Sci-Fi sort of worked out it'd probably be a good idea to do this in a cinema somewhere. So we went and rented the Cinerama Dome to show episodes. And
great name.
Well, the Cinerama Dome is where 165 degree, the golf ball the golf ball looking theatre, the 165 degree movie screen that you could see in Cinerama. Yeah. You could see like the Wild Bunch or Wizard of Oz, like the amazing curved screen. So we were watching Battlestar on that screen. You know, I'm sitting there with Eddie and Robert Young, eating popcorn and going, yeah, this is going to endure for another 50 years. It's still going to look cool. So there is that knowledge and understanding that you know, the next level will be allowed to show stuff at conventions the way we do it at San Diego Comic-Con. You'll be able to, you know, show the pilot or show that stuff. Yeah. That the commerciality from the companies is that they'll realize that this is the best place to break stuff is at conventions, where the real fans are. Give them a sneak peek, let them see what's going on. And
at the convention in March, they showed a brief trailer for series. Yeah,
I was there. I was up on the balcony.
All right, so was I. Why weren't we together?
I was on the left balcony.
All right, I was on that side. But you remember the reaction to that was just as soon as the lights went down. People.
Well, Caro introduced it, and Matt was up at the back balcony. I was on the side balcony.
Yeah. All right.
So I was like, yeah, it was. The reaction's great. I mean, we learned that from, I guess everybody's learned that from Comic-Con, is that that's where you put it out to the crowd. But Who is always received so well there. It's such a fan thing. You know, I'm going to get to straighten people's bow ties for the rest of my life. It's the coolest thing. If I never do another Who episode or am involved again, I will always have been a part of it. I will always have, you know, will have been a companion of sorts. No question, Canton's a companion. You know, whether we get to see the rest of Canton's story or not that's up to Steven, or Caro and everybody else now. But I get to straighten bow ties for the rest of my life. It's an amazingly intimate thing to be able to do.
And you're part of Doctor Who lore, and you will be for the rest of your life and for the rest of eternity. as Canton.
It's all space and time.
Yeah.
But
and as your father as well.
absolutely,
Who's here today?
yes, he is. It's we have an interesting legacy. Yeah, they originally were like, "Do you want to do the prosthetics?" And I was like, "Why don't you just ask my dad?" They're like, "But would he do it?" And I'm like, "It's Doctor Who. Of course he'd do it." And he did. And I might have done myself out of a job, because if the story they want is 2011, I'm really screwed now. They're going to have to use my dad instead. But
were you fans growing up?
well, it was more so myself. I mean, my dad was obviously very away. You have to ask him. But I grew up with Pertwee, and then of course Tom Baker, I guess, became my doctor, and there was a period of time where I had no interest in it whatsoever. It felt, it fell away from me, I guess, and it became a thing of my past. I always looked fondly at what I remembered of it. Kept an eye on it, and then as I got more involved in sci-fi, I went back to watch, and I found there were some lean years, and there was some, people trying to carry the torch for it, which I think they did very well. And then to have Russell bring it back with Chris was the most amazing idea. I mean, it's like, okay, you really are trying to do something different. But to me, it became very Monster of the Week and very 42 minutes, and we've got to wrap everything up. And with the greatest respect to Russell and everybody else there, I don't think until Steven kicked in did it become that really, really strange thing that I really wanted out of Who. So I think, people ask me, Supernatural fans, a lot of Supernatural fans, so I have not watched Doctor Who, where should I start? All right, start with Fish Fingers and Custard.
Yeah.
You might as well. Why not start at season 5, and if you love it, go back and watch the rest.
Yeah.
But you could really get what it's about from that part of season 5, could you not? You really think about it.
Yeah, it's a great stepping on point, I think. You don't have to have seen the show before.
Raggedy Doctor arrives in the blue box, and you're like, because the question is, who is he? And the question is, he's trying to work out who is he. It's one of the best regenerations ever. It's one of the best because you see the entire process of him trying to work it out. And we go with him in that journey, and that has such an effect on Amy Pond, the girl who waited. And then to bookend that with the girl who waited, I mean, and the Doctor's, Neil doing the Doctor's wife, which is just one of the most beautiful episodes of television, let alone Doctor Who.
Doctor's wife was incredibly emotional, and just a great sort of sci-fi story that you don't often get quite like that. The scope and range of it.
Well, my kids and I were watching the Vincent stuff, which was so good because I knew the actor was going to be at the convention that we had in Gallifrey, and wanted them to meet him, and they watched it and they loved it, and they cried at the idea of Van Gogh being, the idea that the Doctor takes him, spoiler alert, the idea that the Doctor decides to take him to show him that he was successful, and yet he still kills himself, which is that's the darkness of.
I think for adults that's the worst part, because we know
kids got it. My kids were like, "That's so sad," and you're like, and the Doctor's wife. The idea is that moment of sadness of the idea that he'll never see her again, and yet then there's that moment which all the kids immediately get before the adults maybe do, is that she's never going to leave. It's the relationship is closer than that. It's like, really, is it that what it's about? No, that's not what it's about. What it's about is always going to be deeper than that. But the idea of the physical embodiment of the TARDIS as a woman is just brilliant casting, brilliant acting, brilliant writing, all coming together. And Steven is the catalyst for a lot of very smart people. Did you like Astronaut and Day of the Moon?
I did very much.
Why?
I'll have to go back to my review, but off the top...
No, it's a question.
One of the things that I loved about it is a two-parter. It felt like two different stories, which I liked. You had Impossible Astronaut, which had quite a different feel to Day of the Moon, because Day of the Moon visually was quite a lot darker because the scenes set in the orphanage.
Oh.
But Impossible Astronaut...
That's a real Borstal. That's the most horrendous place I've ever been in.
Yeah.
All those happy shots of me with the gun, the white background, I shot those in the basement of that Borstal. It's like, oh my God, it's the scariest place you've ever seen.
Yeah.
It looks like something's got to be in Gotham City. I mean, it really does.
Well, it does have that vibe when the chap answered the door. It's like, oh, you're...
Toby was like giggling, going, I've got my Christopher Nolan moment. I can come in over the gates. I'm like, for God's sake, man. I mean, what a great director Toby is. My wife wasn't a big Who fan because she wasn't really exposed to it. But she started watching, and I made her watch season 5, and then Christmas is when she started. She watched Christmas, then she went back. She watched Christmas with Gambon, and she was like, "This is beautiful."
Yeah.
And then she realised that Toby had directed Pandorica, Christmas, and she actually said, she goes, "You know, his episodes are better. There's something about his episodes. There's a sensibility that he has." So him working with Steven, working with that level of the story, it's fascinating. And him having watched him just do Sherlock, he did Wallander, and then he did Wallander, and then he did the Sherlock episode. He did a really good Sherlock episode.
Yeah,
really
the final.
Yes.
From earlier this year. Yeah.
And I was like, he's like, there's nothing in it for you, Mark. There's nothing. You come do a cameo. I'm like, no. I'll wait. They may never get to me, but I'll wait. I'm the boy who waited. But he's a fabulous director. And Stefan was just brilliant. Stefan was.
He's got such a good eye.
But there was a big change from what was before. If you look at the DPs that were before, I mean, remember Toby brought Stefan in, I think. So it was a lot of gambling, and Marcus and now Caro. These are all people that really care about this show, and it really is important. Yeah. Not that people didn't care about it before, but the more passion and the more love that goes into it, the better the show is. And that's what's made it so fascinating for the last few years, that it's really been about whoever can carry the ball, whoever really wants to carry the ball, carries the ball. Yeah. And I think Matt is also another reason why this is so excellent. You know, Chris was essential for rebooting this, to give you something different. And David is probably the most popular Doctor that's ever been, and did an amazing job. But Matt is something else. He's something different. He's an enigma. He's the youngest Doctor, yet the oldest Doctor. Yeah. And he's the most, I think he's the Doctor that's evolved the most in the shortest space of time. He's gone from being a very different character when he first appeared to where he became in the beginning of season 6. In Astronaut and Day of the Moon, he dies at the beginning, which changes him. And then everything is now, it's almost like everything of his life is frivolous by the time we get to the end of season 6. And he's going to sit there with Winston for the rest of his life, farting around with the clock stopped forever in that amazing universe that comes from avoiding your destiny.
Yeah.
That's the idea, is that it's created by avoiding his responsibility.
Which, it's bookended so nicely, because we see it at the start in Impossible Astronaut. And what a great start.
Yes. And Steve was like, it's going to be very interesting. Let's kill the hero at the beginning of the season. Work it out from there, but then, you always could have had Canton. It's nice to have him place Canton where he plays Canton, and to wrap up the Brigadier and to wrap up those things. But Canton could have just been there because he had a gas can. Yeah. And it's not. He explains the envelopes, and it's that he wanted to be surrounded by, his closest friends. Yeah. So if Canton's one of his closest friends, it's like, wow, that means the investment that we had in the character was totally worthwhile. Because I believe it's a really intimate relationship. I think I played it as a very intimate relationship.
And I think it's very quick. Actors, from what I've seen in dramas, if actors have a good shorthand together, instantly there's a wonderful chemistry that comes off. So the minute you're in admiration of Matt as a Doctor, he likes that, of course, but he wants somebody on his side.
But he respects Canton for what Canton is, and that. Well, my bigger on the inside moment is the strangest thing ever, because they were like, "Well, so how do you want to do this?" Yeah. And I'm like, I wouldn't go in, because if you think it's 1969 and we've got cell phones and we've got all sorts of technology, and I'm working for a government that is incredibly secretive at that time, and we're off to the moon and all of these things are happening, and I'm like, I walk it, it's like, okay, what are we dealing with here? And Toby had said, and I think Matt said, it was like the first time anybody didn't go, oh my God, and this big, and I'm literally like, and I won't come out from behind the spar, behind the door. I'm like, no, I'm good. It's bigger on the inside. It's bigger on the inside. It's like you tell him, Rory, why? Because you knew. I love it. It's like, so, space and time, time travel. It's that wonderful. But the beats are so. I mean, how often does somebody get a bigger on the inside moment and get to say Doctor Who? Yeah. I'm like, and then how often is it about, you know, Canton makes the decision for us that he's the most interesting man in the room. It's like, yeah, you know, we can shoot him later. Let's find out what he has to say.
Well, there is a moment of, yeah, I think I might kill you, but let's just give it a moment.
Then I'll shoot you. But it's like, but it's the idea is that don't screw with me, but I want to know what's going on. How the hell did you get the box in here? What's this about? Yeah, on Canton, no account, follow me into this blue box and close the door behind you is one of the greatest lines ever, because it's from that moment Canton's destiny is sealed. And then he spends a little while recovering till that wonderful moment where it's like, so back with us, Canton. And it's like, yeah, love the wheels. I mean, love the wheels is somebody gave me a keep calm and love the wheels poster, which was just, and I put it in one of my kids' bedrooms. It's this lovely white frame. But yeah, love the wheels. It's just, I do love the wheels. And then to watch Doctor's Wife and go, yeah, love the wheels. Because it means something. You know, to watch Arthur and Karen do what they do with so much love and affection too, and Alex and everybody just invested. But it was a special thing to do. It was a special moment, and I think I jumped in with both feet. I think I gave it everything I could possibly give it, and to have my character ultimately to be in a gay interracial relationship in 1969 in Nixon's White House is one of the funniest damn things ever. I mean, the tricky dicky gay and all that stuff. And say, will I be remembered? I mean, I'm literally losing my lunch laughing at that. Oh, Dicky, tricky Dicky, they're never going to forget you. It's just clever. It's, you know, the idea that the Doctor is the man that made Nixon turn on the tape recorder is absolutely brilliant.
It's quite subtle as well. I think the inferences that are going on there.
Now he has to record everybody. And there's like, hold on a second, hold on. Stephen, so what you're actually saying here is the Doctor is responsible for Watergate. And given the new revelations, it's like, I don't know if it's that good, but there's a degree of brilliance in it. And Stewart was just fantastic as Nixon. I remember they put the nose on him at the beginning. The correct nose was too much. That you had to pare it down a bit. It was like it was a fantastic transformation, and it was just amazing moments. Like we built the Era 51, so we're in an RAF hangar in Wales, which was just like amazing. And they put the 51 at the. I'm like, this is so cool. And we shot a scene that was never used, which we wanted so bad. And I think we ran out of time in the episode, and it was an idea that I had with Toby. I said, we shot a scene with when I'm in the black. Essentially the jail, the dwarf style cube, and it was the last moments with the silent, where the silent is saying, why did you, why didn't you just kill me? And the pitch is, this is, the video, this is how we're going to get you. This is how we're going to get you forever. And as I talked to him, I'm face to face with the silent. It was amazing sort of profile stuff going on, really dark. And then I back away from the silent, never not looking at the silent, put my hands into the handhold without ever looking at it, which was amazing that I got there in a take. Open the door, they open the door, and my last line is, that's of course if I can remember where you are. Close out and I walk away. And as I walked away, I said to Toby, can we turn the lights off? And of course, Tim and the post guys are like, yeah, we do that in post. I mean, only on Doctor Who will somebody work out how. Yeah, and it was the idea is as I walk away, it's poof, 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 and it forever is a silent in a box, which is just a lovely idea. I mean, it was just time that we lost that stuff. But things like that were done and considered and moved around, and it was a dark episode.
Well, I mean, the idea of the silence as a species is incredible.
Oh yeah, it's awful because it doesn't. For starters, what do you do with the bodies and all the rest of those questions doesn't really matter. But the idea is that we never really solved them. We've solved the Weeping Angels in a way, which are brilliantly scary. But these are memory protected monsters, which is just the wrong. I mean, the great use of the word memory protected, but genius. They've been here as long as us, and we haven't dealt with them. It's not right. It's very uncomfortable. And my kids were like a little freaked out for a few days. But I was thinking of something else we did. What was the was another piece. Oh, the idea of like coming out of the box with Nixon. You know, we go in. You've been in there for we've been in there for 3 months or something. And it's like, you know, the idea is like, so we're in this place, and all the guys, a couple of Americans there, and, you know, playing the American soldiers, and the idea to put the gun up, like, you don't point the gun at the president. There's nothing you cannot point. He's the commander in chief. You can't. So when they're like pointing at Canton, tell us where. No, I'm not going. I don't have to. This guy's going to tell you what's going on. And the idea, stand down, boys. You know, it's like, oh my God. It's so, because where'd you put the gun? You can't point the gun at the president. So there's all these amazing things going on. And the idea of the space race and that just fascinating time, and the idea that the undoing of the silence is on the most watched piece of video that has ever existed in the history.
And a moment of one of mankind's greatest achievements, you know, one would argue. If it is
I think we could argue that forever, which is, I think, Steven's whole point. Kind of brilliant.
Yeah. It was such a cinematic episode as well, as a story.
Helicopters, bloody helicopters, dams. Yeah. I looked over the edge of that dam, and the human eye sees things that the camera cannot see. You can't feel the width and the depth of that all at one time. But my body shut down. I felt my body shutting down as I looked over the edge of this dam. It's too far to humanly survive, and my body knew that. And your brain shuts your body down. It's like, well, this is not good. You have to move away from it. You can't stare at it. It's like a gust of wind and I'm a dead person. I will never recover from this fall. There's no part of this. I felt like Wile E. Coyote at that point. It was like, and there we are on top of a dam that, you know, carrying guns and stuff, which is like completely Homeland Security, and terrorists would want to blow it up and do stuff to it. So.
Was there no health and safety signs?
No, there was people with guns. You know, they scanned the van, they scanned everything we had. And Arthur's like running up and hitting those. I'm like, my God, man. It's the same with Karen when, you know, she goes to the edge of the cliff, and I'm chasing her in the car. That's me in the car, by the way. I'd never be allowed to do that. American television, doing like 80 miles an hour in the dirt, chasing Karen down a dirt road in
lawyers getting a bit.
It was amazing, and she skids into the edge of the cliff. It's like,
yeah, because of course for a couple of minutes you're a bad man.
That was the fun part. I think that's why they picked me. It's the idea that I would be the bad guy.
Because you look like a bad guy.
I do look like a bad guy. Well, I've been the bad guy. But no, the idea of the bad guy, that was the biggest selling point, to come in the beginning of the second episode and chase River. Ultimately into the swimming pool, which is funny. It's great. It's a great bookend to that, which was done 18 feet off the ground in Cardiff, in an old bank, substituting for New York with a bit of green screen, across from the oldest knocking shop in Wales, the Green Door. It's true. It was like, all the drivers, hey Mark, one after another was like, Mark, it's the oldest knocking shop in Cardiff. I was like, oh, thank you for letting me know. Another driver say, hey Mark, you see that? Do you know that place across the street? The oldest knocking shop in Cardiff. So we're going to all the high spots.
Classy taxi drivers.
But no, that's the drivers from the set drivers. Right. The taxi drivers. Don't know how they would possibly know.
No, of course not.
It's a matter of probably public knowledge.
Today is only the second day of the convention, but so far, what's your experience been with the fans? And have you been asked any interesting or outrageous questions? I do have an outrageous question for you at the end. No
is the answer. All right. It's really the first day. I mean, we have the introduction on the Friday, but the Saturday, this becomes like the first day of doing the guest talks and the fun stuff. But they're really good to me. They're nice to me, and I know most of them, so it's a lot of fun. What's your question?
My question is, would you rather fight
you're talking about
the what was it, 50-foot duck?
You know, Howard the Duck has been responsible for the idea of the anthropomorphization of ducks. I'd shoot the duck.
Have you seen Howard the Duck?
Yeah, of course. Everybody's seen Howard the Duck.
Not one of George Lucas's finest moments.
Now, would you rather fight the Tick or Chairface Chippendale?
Ooh. The Tick?
Really? Why?
I have no idea.
You ever watched the Tick?
No.
You haven't watched the Tick?
No, I do apologise. Should I?
Ben Edlund's series, the greatest cartoon ever made. You have to watch The Tick. $9 for the DVDs. 2 seasons. Funniest thing you've ever seen in your life. Written by the genius that is Ben Edlund when he was at school. And
Yeah, I didn't know
into
that.
one of the best superheroes of all time. There's a sidekick who's a moth called Arthur with a bit of a paunch.
Are you making this up? Is he messing with me?
The Tick. Spoon! It's one of the greatest. The live-action series with Patrick Warburton was interesting, but not brilliant.
I have seen a bit with Patrick Warburton, but
The original Tick is one of the funniest things you will ever see in your entire life.
check that out. I wish I had some recommendations for you.
There you go. Anthropomorphizing ducks is not my thing. Would I rather fight a duck-shaped horse or a...
Yeah, it was a horse-sized duck, or 5 duck-sized horses.
Oh, it's silly.
I know it's silly.
Why does the question exist?
That's what I asked. I asked him if was there a psycho. I was asked this question earlier today.
That doesn't even trigger psychological response. That's not even a...
I couldn't figure it out. I was just thinking, why? And why did you choose to ask me that? Or us?
Everybody would fight 5 small things that can't hurt them.
I was curious to see what a horse-sized duck would look like.
Kind of like Elton John, really.
And here he is today, Elton John, special guest.
I don't even take that with the sense of humour was intended.
Yes, he is well known for his sense of humour, isn't he?
Okay. That one's on him.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here. It's
Sleep yet?
I hope you enjoy the rest of the convention,
Thank you.
and I look forward to seeing you hopefully sometime in the future, Doctor Who.
Good. Don't sue.
Mark Sheppard, thank you very much.
Thank you.